I'm Sarah from Cloudworks, and if you're looking for ways to integrate tools into Salesforce without writing a single line of code, then look no further. With integrate, I'm going to show you how you can integrate HubSpot into Salesforce without writing any code at all. Now you could be saying that there's a plugin for Salesforce available with HubSpot. Why would I want to do that anyway? That is true, but it depends on the edition of HubSpot that you have, the number of objects that you'd like to sync. Some objects aren't available, and some cases are just more complex that require code anyway. So with integrate, we can do this with point and click. So I work for a company where sales and marketing both work on the same contacts and the same leads, and sales works in Salesforce and marketing works in HubSpot. But neither team have access to the other tool, which means that the data have to be up to date in real time and always exact. So sales buy the leads from a lead generation company, they upload them into Salesforce, they need to be synced to HubSpot, so marketing can send them newsletters, monitor their interaction, and when they are mature enough, the information needs to be synced back to Salesforce so the sales know to contact them. So let's take a look at how we can do this. So I'm now going to show you how this actually looks like in Salesforce and HubSpot and what we've actually configured. So let's take a look at this lead. Virginia Woolf, been uploaded in the lead generation list by the sales team. We have these three fields here: HubSpot ID, HubSpot status, and company ID. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to push this information to HubSpot. I will get the ID back, so I know that where I can find it in HubSpot, and that when we get the information back, we know where to update it. The HubSpot status, so this will tell me what the lifecycle status is in the contact in HubSpot, so we can track this. And I'll also get the company ID, which is the company that's been created then in HubSpot. So it actually makes more sense in a real life case to use a scheduled flow for this, so that, I don't know, twice a day the leads will be uploaded to HubSpot. But obviously we don't want to wait around for that long. So I've just configured a button so we can just do this manually. So as I can see, the status is open or contacted. So I'm going to press this button and say push to HubSpot. It's going to do its magic in the background. And if I take a look at what happened, if I look in HubSpot, I can see that here, my contact has been created. Looking in the lead, the status has been updated. So I configured this with a flow in Salesforce that once this ID has been given back, that the status updates to working contacted. So the sales team know that marketing is dealing with this. The status has been updated. And if I refresh this, the company ID has also been updated. So again, this is also a flow that basically the company has been created once the ID has been created, so that we know that we can link the contact to the correct company. And if we look at the other use case, so I've actually configured a webhook so that when the status changes in HubSpot, that we get this information back in Salesforce, and when the status is the correct one, it will update to sales contact, which means that the sales team know that they can work on this contact and get in touch with them. So let's take a look at this. So I click into Virginia Woolf, into the contact in HubSpot. And if I change the lifecycle status, so stage, so this is what I configured. If I press this and choose sales qualified lead, and if I switch back to Salesforce and reload this, we can see that now the status has been updated because we have received the information back that the status has been updated to sales qualified lead. So this again is also a flow and a record triggered flow. So that's what the actual end result looks like. Of integraid. So the first thing is, of course, an integraid license. Make sure that we have them. The second is to configure the setup in Salesforce. So this means that we need the correct fields where we're going to store the information. And of course, we need to make sure that we have a private app in HubSpot. So for this, you need to consult the documentation of HubSpot, create an app, define the scopes, which means what information you'd like to share with the API. And of course, anything else that you need to take care of regarding licenses or what have you. So yeah, make sure that you have them. So let's jump into integrate to see how we can actually configure this. So if we look into the app, so here, as you know, the app launcher, and you can just type in integrate and you'll land here. So we're just going to look at today the providers, endpoints and mappings, the configuration, the jobs and results. I mean, all of the objects with the fields are described in more detail in the integrate documentation, but the provider is going to be the system that we're going to integrate Salesforce with. The endpoints are going to be where we're going to send the information to. And the mappings is the data context. So this is going to tell us where the data is found in Salesforce, what we want to use to send to the third-party tool, and what information we're going to store when we get a result back. So let's start with the provider. That's the easiest thing. We'll give it a name, HubSpot-Integration. And the base URL. So this is all based on HubSpot's documentation. I'm not making anything up here, so this you can find all there. And first thing to do is the authorization. So every time we make a call out, so we send the information, HubSpot is going to ask us to identify ourselves, to authorize ourselves. And I can do this here. I'll choose what type it is. The header is authorization. Again, this is all provided by the documentation, so there's nothing here there's nothing particularly new, so I'll just provide everything here. And now that I've done that, I'm going to provide the information about the endpoints. So to do the process that I showed you today, I need 3 endpoints. So let's start with the contact creation. We'll start with this one. So it's a call out, the method is post, and the URL, I'll provide the information here. HubSpot, all in the documentation. And I'm going to go into the endpoint, and we're going to add the attributes. So this is basically the structure of what information we're going to send to HubSpot. And if I click on configure, I can choose which direction this is. So if it's the call out or if it's the result that I'm getting back. So we'll start off with the outbound, the location, again, documentation. So I can add every single identifier here. So I could type properties, company, and what have you. But to make things simple, we can actually just import an example that is provided in the documentation. So I'll just copy and paste it here. I'll press import, and it would have picked up already all of the attributes. If I look here, I can see that it's recognized what the identifiers are, what data type they are. Obviously, I can just check this and change it if need be. Once I've done that, I can save. So this is the outbound, and now I'm going to configure the inbound. So this is the result that I'm going to get back, again, where it's located. And I can do the same thing here and just import this information.
So I don't necessarily need all of this information. I can just pick out the bits that I want and basically decide that if I don't want this, then I can just get rid of this one and this one. So I would advise in doing this because it makes things easier to maintain. If somebody comes along and looks into all of the attributes that we've defined and the mappings, then they'll be able to spot straight away what we need. For the purpose of this demo, just to go a bit quicker, I'm just going to save it as it is. But yeah, I do strongly recommend to kind of tidy up a bit after yourselves. And so we have the attributes to the endpoint, and we want to now map the data. So tell integraid where the data is located in Salesforce and where we're going to send it to HubSpot. So I'll just give it a name here. I'll save this. And let's have a look at what we have in the mapping. So we have several things here. Again, this is all provided by the integraid documentation. But basically what we're going to do is add a scope. So scopes are data context in Salesforce. So as we're putting the information that's already available in Salesforce, we're going to use scope. So we're going to tell the system where to find this data and what object it's located. So in this case, it would just be on the lead. It's very basic. It's just the one object. Of course, if you were sending opportunity information, you can add opportunities to the primary scope, and via related lookup fields, you could define the account and the contact as child scopes, for example, if you also wanted to send this information over. But this one is very simple, so I'm just going to add the scope. I can search for the object in question, so I don't have to scroll through the whole list. And that's done, so I can just go back to the mapping. So target objects we'll look at later, and field updates are, for example, if you always wanted to save information that's going to fire no matter what the result. So for example, if I were to make a call out and I wanted always to save the last date that I made this, that I took this action. So I would say, for example, always save today's date, no matter the result, whatever happens, this date is always going to be updated. So I will know the last time that it tried. So we're going to now configure the actual the data configuration. So where we're going to find this. So I can choose here in which direction I would like to do first. So I'm going to map the data to the attributes. We're going to do the outbound one first of all. And what we're going to do is it's already picked up the attributes that we have here, the properties and the scope. So we know, yeah, okay, the information is stored here. So I'll just add this. And I'm going to click on here, configure. I can choose everything that I want to map. So I have the company and I know that it's located on the lead. So I'm going to add this. So here I will find company and choose the field in Salesforce. So this list here is all of my fields that I have configured on my lead. And oh, there we are. Email. So I'm just going to quickly go through this list. Just bear with me. Last name. So the last one is actually a little different. So the lifecycle stage is a field that's in HubSpot that I don't have in Salesforce. So this is a value that I always want to provide. I always want to send over this information, but it's not available in Salesforce. So what I'm going to do is rather than click on the lead, so pull the, let's say, dynamic data from Salesforce, I'm actually going to define a static value. So something that's always going to be sent over to HubSpot. So to do this, I just basically add the blank space, and here I can add a static value. And I'm going to add the value that I would like to send it to. So this is just a status to say, hey, marketing, do your stuff. And of course I can pick a variable, so I can say if it were a day, I could say today -2, or yesterday, or tomorrow, or whatever you fancy. And so that's done. I'm just going to press save. So that's what I'm going to send outwards. And what I'm also going to do is configure the inbound. So this is the result I'm going to get back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to then say where I'd like to store this information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the attribute, so it's the ID that I'm going to get back in my result. And I want to save this into my lead in Salesforce. So I'll just click value, I'll add this, and then I'll tell it to update the HubSpot ID field in the lead. And that's that. So that's done. And what I can do now is I can test this and see if this is going to work. So I will click on validate first of all to check to make sure, okay, have I got everything that I need to send over? And then I can test it. So what I'm going to do is I can look for a lead in Salesforce. So let's go with, for example, Mary Shelley. And I can create, and then it will create a job in the background. And then it will see what happens. So I did get a 409, but it was actually a successful call out because if you look here, everything has been sent over. And here, the result that I got back is a specific error from HubSpot saying that the contact already exists, so we can't do it again. So this is actually although the contact wasn't actually created, is an expected result, so that's fine. And what we can do is we can always apply the mapping if we decide that, okay, it was successful, I want to update the actual information in Salesforce, because at this point, if we just created the job to test it, nothing's actually going to be updated. But we can do this if we click on the apply button. So that works. So what we're going to do is we're now going to go back to our providers and we're going to add our other endpoint. So I'm going to click on new and we'll go on to the company endpoint this time. So I've created the contact. I now want to create the company and we do the same as before. Again, this is nothing particularly new. We'll just add the URL, we go into the endpoint. Again, we just do the same thing, we configure the attributes. So I'm going to choose the outbound one, it's located in the body. Import an example to make things just a bit easier for myself. Just check to make sure everything's okay, that looks fine, I'm going to save that. And then we're going to do the same for the inbound. Just check all of those. Again, I can get rid of the ones that I don't need. And I'm just going to click save. And we'll do the mapping. So this is going to be working exactly the same way. I'm going to add the scope because we already have the data contacts in Salesforce. So I'll just search for this lead. Click on create. We'll go back. And we'll configure the data so that we can map the information. So on the outbound, what we're going to do is we're going to tell it that where we need to locate the company. So once we create the contact, we need to add the company and tell the system to link the company and the contact together. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to choose one of these. So we have the associations again on the lead. So this is specific to HubSpot actually. So what we're going to tell it is basically what type of relation this is, where we're going to find the information. And I'm going to say, okay, the ID, it's linked to this contact and the contact's ID is located in this field here. I'm going to go back to associations just to add another layer here. And then we can add the type. This is specific to HubSpot as well. We're going to add a static value. So this is the information about what type of, what way the relation is. So as we're creating the company, after we've created the contact, we just have to give over this information that that's the way that we did this. So the category is this one here, and the ID is this one. And we're going to go back to association. We're also going to go back to body because we now also need to actually say, okay, what is the name of the company? And this information we have, so we're just going to configure in the properties, the name here, company, and save. So now we have that, and again we can do the validate and the testing, and once that's good to go, you can of course activate, which is also very important to make sure that it actually works in the end. So we've done now the two, let's say, outbound. The ID we want back as well, so we'll just configure that. Nearly forgot about that one. And we're going to say, okay, hey, the ID we want you to save in the HubSpot company ID. And we'll save this. So there we go. That's it for that. So what we're going to do, we have now one last data entry point to configure. So this is actually a webhook that we're going to implement, because this information is going to come from HubSpot. HubSpot is basically going to say, hey, I have a status update. This is ready. This information is ready to be re-imported into Salesforce. So here you go. And we can also do that as well. So let's take a little look at how we can do this. So if we go back to the provider into HubSpot, again, this is all known. So we add another endpoint. Only difference is that we're not doing a call out this time, but a call in. So I'll save this. And we have less information here, but we can configure the attributes again like it was before. So we'll do configure. And this is going to be an inbound. We'll import an example. So again, just for simplification and for maintenance, I would recommend to get rid of everything that you don't need. I mean, I have no idea what most of these fields are. But yeah, just for the purpose of this demo, we're just going to keep it like this. And then we'll add the mappings here. Typo there. And just to give you a bit of more information about what exactly this is. So this URL will be provided by integraid, and this is the URL that you have to provide to the tool. So for example, in HubSpot, in your app that you've configured, you can also configure webhooks. Again, you have to define what data is affected here, but you also have to add this URL. You can do a test and just see if that works there. But yeah, that is how this works there. And now we're actually going to look at the target objects, because we don't have data context. The data doesn't as yet. I mean, it does exist in Salesforce, but the tool doesn't know this at this point. So basically, and this can happen at any time. So, at some point, maybe the potential client might say, I want to subscribe to this newsletter, or I want to be contacted by sales. This will update the status in HubSpot, and HubSpot will say, hey, Salesforce, I have data that's ready for you. So this could be at any time in the morning. It could be 4 o'clock in the morning. It could be midnight. It could be midday. You don't know. And so we just have to make sure that we're ready for whenever we're going to come. So we're going to configure here a target object. So the object that we're going to look for, what we're going to look for in Salesforce, and we'll call it lead. Lead update, maybe the name of the field, just to make it a little more clear. And then what we're going to do is we're going to here find the object. And we can determine here, okay, what do we want to do? Do we want to read? Do we want to update or upset? So I'm going to click here, update, because I'm just going to assume that all of the contacts first of all in Salesforce and then move to HubSpot so that they're already existing. But of course, there may be processes where it might be an upsert. So we can just say, okay, find this ID. If you don't find it, then add the lead. So that is a possibility. So we have the target object, and we're going to configure this. And what we're going to do is we're actually now going to link this, and we're going to find the information that we need. So before we worked with values, and what we're going to find now is we're going to actually use an identifier. So this is what the tool is going to look for to make the update on the lead. So if we choose here, if we go to what we need, so what we need in this one is the object ID, and so this is the ID that HubSpot is going to provide us with. And rather than choose value, I'm going to use identifier. So this, as I said before, this is what we're going to use. So the tool's going to use to search for this ID. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it where to find it. So we're going to look for the HubSpot ID. And now I just need to say, okay, hey, what are we going to update? So we'll go run one, property value, and we'll stay with value because we just want to update this. And then we'll say the HubSpot status. And then we just save that. And and then I have a flow that's configured on there that when this status updates to a certain value, that the status and the leads should update. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to configure a flow because this is basic Salesforce, but I will show you though how we can configure the flow to make the call out in integraid. So the first thing is, of course, to make sure that they're all active. So we just click on this button, and it will check everything to make sure everything's okay, and then it will activate it. Of course, if you want to deactivate it at any time, just use the deactivate button. You can test it again. So if we look into the flow, how to call this. So this is just a screen flow, but of course, this works the same way with a scheduled flow or a record triggered flow. So we need a set of IDs because we're going to provide integrated with this information. They're the parent IDs, so that we know, hey, which data are we going to pull? And here I just have an Apex action that, and I just say, give it the information, okay, what mapping is it? And the IDs. So I provide the tool with the IDs as I just explained a few seconds ago. So let's just I'll just show you where to find this. So if we go to action, I have call out. Just search for it, and here we'll find integrate call out. I'll give it a name. So the mapping, this you could find on the mapping level. So on this, it's this identifier here. So if I were to say I want to look into the company contact creation, then I will just look here and I will copy this mapping, enter this here, and then just add the IDs and then give this to the tool. And then you can just save, debug, and test. And there you have it. Within half an hour, we've configured a whole API, a whole process that will sync information to and from Salesforce and HubSpot.
So this was a very simple use case. You could go even further. And for example, when an opportunity has reached close one, this information can be synced back to HubSpot, and marketing can analyze the campaigns that they've created and how many opportunities were won from that, analyze general return on investment and other KPIs that they want to report on. I hope also that you're itching to try out integraid and see for yourself what else we can do with this tool. And if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out for us, and see you next time. And don't forget to check out our other videos.